Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Byers, and this is Module 2, and I'm going to talk about hard surface modeling. So, what is it? Well, the idea is that if you're working in games and you create a high resolution object, it usually starts from a low resolution object first. You retopologize it. In the game industry, what they usually do, and we don't have time to do that, production emphasis is starting with ZBrush. So you'd start sculpting in ZBrush like a character, and then you would bring it into Maya. Now, the way I end up doing it is I start with a low concept, a basic form in Maya first, then I export it out into ZBrush, and then I add all the detail. And then what I do is go to Topogun, and then I retopologize at a lower mesh, and that's how I get my high res and my low res. But when we're working with simple objects like the sci-fi crate, we usually start and do it a little different way. Our workflow is a little bit different with simple objects. So simple objects, we just start with something like simply a simple cube. Okay, let's just try that first, and I'll show you the concepts. Alright, so if I take this cube, and our crate has a lot more detail than this, even as a low poly object, but let's just start with a cube and give you the foundation of hard surface modeling. So if I were to take that cube and I wanted to smooth this, but what would happen? Let's do this. Control D and move it over to the side. Let's give you an example here. I'm going to turn on wireframe, okay, so we can see it better. So turning on wireframe allows us to see the wireframe of the object, okay, and I like to do that when I'm working with games and creating game objects. So let's go in here, let's select the object. I'm going to hold the shift key down on my right mouse button, and I'm going to go into Insert Edge Loop tool. I'm holding down the shift key and my right mouse button at the same time. Okay, just hold them both down. I'm holding them down right now, and then click on Insert Edge Loop tool. Okay, this is the tool of choice for creating edge loops. So if I create an edge loop here, okay, now this tells me how smooth it will be. The closer those edge loops are, those supporting edge loops to the main structure, okay, this is the main structure right here, okay, so I added edge loops around it, okay, and I'll tell you why in just a second here. So I'm going to go ahead and add edge loops. Notice I'm keeping them consistent distance from each other, okay, as consistent as I can be by eyeballing it, and there it is. I'm done except for this side over here. I gotta get this side over here. There we go. So we gotta get all sides of the box, okay, as you can see. Alright. Alright, so with that done, now I can go in here, go to select. I'm gonna hit the Q key to get out of that mode, because once you're in a mode, you have to click on the Q key to get out of that mode, otherwise you're going to continue adding edge loops. So I want you to practice that. I want you to select the object, hold down the shift key and the right mouse button, and go to Insert Edge Loop. We also have multi-cut, sculpt tool, target weld tool, fill holes. We got all these, and this is a lot faster than going in here trying to search and find it in the Edit Mesh, Mesh Tools, and Mesh Display. Okay? The tools are in here too as well, as you know, holding down the space bar. Okay, but I like to go in here and hold the shift key down on the right mouse button, and that lets me go right into the Insert Edge Loop tool, which I'm going to be using a lot. Okay, alright, so let's go ahead and go to select mode on this. Let's do a Control D, and let's move this over. We're just kind of practicing here, and let's make these edge loops a lot farther away. Okay, so I'm going to go back to select, okay, hit the Q key. I'm going to hold down the shift key and the right mouse button, go to Insert Edge Loop tool, and let's make these edge loops a lot farther away. Okay, but we're being consistent, okay, with the distance, okay, or as consistent as you can be. And we're just adding those edge loops all the way around the object here, Just make sure we have all of them done. If you don't have them all done, you'll notice something right away that will be bad that'll happen. Now this one is not far enough away, so how do I move that edge? I'm going to hit the Q key. Alright, I'm going to select that edge. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and the right mouse button. I'm going to go to Slide Edge Tool. Okay, I'm going to slide that edge. I'm going to hold it. It tells me to drag with middle mouse button and slide. So I'm going to hold my middle mouse button, drag it over top of it. And look, I can do that very easily. Okay, so I'm going to go in there and hold the Shift and right key and go into Slide Edge Loop and drag that. Cool. Alright, that's really cool to be able to do that. And you can do that after the fact. I'm going to hit the G key so I don't have to go back to it all the time. The G key lets me revisit that tool again. Okay, hit the G key, lets me revisit that tool. There we go. So that's how you can, if you don't like where your edge loops are, I'm going to hit the G key again because we've already done that that tool again. We've already used it. So there we go. So now you know how to move the edges around. Okay. So now you can see those edge loops are farther away. Okay. What do you think is going to happen when I use the smooth tool? Okay. Well, what should happen is that my edges should be, what'll happen is that it'll smooth that edge from here to here. It'll take that and average that edge out. Okay? So we'll have a tighter edge here. Okay? All right? And here it'll smooth out from here to here, which gives me a really large area of smoothness. So let's check it out and see how it works. All right, so we're going to be in selection mode now. We can go up here. Notice how it's kind of frustrating that they're all not being selected now. They're all back into the component mode. That's what happens when they're blue. So I'm going to go up here and click on object mode. So now when I click them, they're in object mode. So to be able to smooth these objects out to be a higher polygon, I'm going to give you a hard surface model, because right now these are low poly models. Okay, no matter how you look at it with the edge loops, whether it be this, this, or this. Okay, those are low poly. They're not high poly yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Control D, and hit the W key and move that forward. Okay, I'm going to do a Control D, or excuse me, hold down the Control and then D, and duplicate that, move it forward, and do the same thing with this guy. Control D, move it forward. Okay, so we're going to smooth all of these. Let's just separate them out a little bit more. There we go, like that. And then what we're going to do, okay, we're going to keep these. Okay, so I'm going to smooth this one out. So I'm going to hold down the space bar, go to Mesh, and go to Smooth. Okay, that's subdivisions of 1. Now that's not really truly a high poly model, but we're getting there. Let's do 2. There we go. That's a lot better. And we can even go up to 3. Now that's going to be kind of overkill. We don't really need to go to 3. Okay, but you can see the differences. Okay, it gives us a lot more vertices and faces. Okay, so let's go back to 2. I think that's a good start. Okay, go back to 2. And we'll leave that one at 2. Alright, let's go to this one. So you can see that we've got a nice surface here. Okay, a harder edge. That's called hard. That's why they call it hard surface modeling. So when we smooth it, and that's what it looks like. Okay, alright. So let's go to the next one and hold down the space bar, go to Mesh, and then Smooth. Okay, let's go ahead and set this up to 2. So subdivision level at 2, so we can continue just do that with the other one. And so we can see now we've got a smoother edge. Okay, this is still called hard surface modeling. It really depends on what the end effect that you want it to look like. So normally we have a reference, and we want to ideally model the object exactly the way you see it. Okay. So this surface might work better with softer objects. Okay, softer edged objects. Okay, and then this one here, we have no edge loops. And what's going to happen with this one? Well, let's see. Mesh, and then Smooth, And all we get is just like a round, almost a round circle. Okay, and if that is what you want to create, a sphere, then you've done your job. Okay, let's bring this to 3 because that's too low poly. There we go. It's not truly a sphere because we've got some pinching there on the side. So normally I would never create a sphere out of a cube, but if you need to create it with all 4-sided polygons, that's what you would do. At least get you started anyway. I usually start with something like 2 first and then refine it so it looks a little more spherical, but that's pretty cool. But that's not what we're really trying to do. So this scenario here is, you know, if I want to start creating a rock, let's say start with 1, I want to create a rock shape, I can start with that shape, and that works out really well. But normally we don't want that. So let's go ahead and get rid of this real quick. Right? Let's delete. The idea with hard surface modeling is that you're creating a hard surface. Okay, let's go ahead and take the wireframe off so we can see it. This looks really nice. So you can see that we have a low poly. Now the low poly will never ever reflect light properly. Okay, that's why when we talk about when I create objects, we're at a higher resolution, so the light reflects off the corners. Okay. All right. So how would we do interior corners? That's why I always keep my wireframe, I would call it the edge loop model. Okay. I always duplicate it so I can do this. Let's say I have somebody that wants some added geometry to this, so I'm going to go ahead and add geometry to this. Insert edge loop tool right here and right here. I'm going to add more geometry to this, make it look a little more interesting. And so now I can go in here. Let's go back into selection mode. Let's get out of the tool. Remember that tool is always a problem. Now I'm going to go into face mode. I'm going to select this face. Okay. I'm going to add more details to this object. Okay. So I'm going to go Control E, and I'm just going to move this out like this. Now notice it's not doing a very good job here, but I can fix that. So I'm just going to move that up. Okay. And the only part I really need to fix is this part right here. Okay. So I'm going to select the edge. I'm going to hit the Q key. I like hitting that Q key a lot. You'll notice that. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the side view, and I'm going to move that up. That's not really what I want right here. So I'm going to hit the Y key and just pull that up and create a corner. I want that to be a corner. Okay. Alright, there we go. So what happens now when I hit the 3 key? Now that's a smooth preview. We actually physically smooth this, but what if I want to look at it as a smooth preview? I can hit the 3 key. There we go. And that gives me a smooth preview of what it might look like when I smooth it. Okay? If that's what I want it to look like, then I've done my job. But if my reference doesn't show that, then I need to add more edge loops. Okay? So to do that, I'm going to hit the Q key again. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to hold the Shift key and my right mouse button. I'm going to insert edge loops now. Okay? To this object. Alright, so I'm going to add an edge loop across here to tighten that object up. I'm going to add an edge loop around here to tighten that up. Okay. And I'm going to add an edge loop right here to tighten this up a little bit more. Now, you notice that it's not doing a good job going across here. That's because what's happening is that this object is sharing that edge loop. Okay. So what I have to do is, let's go a little bit lower here. Control Z, back that. We're going to move this edge loop up here, okay, and tighten it up this way, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to select this edge right here, hit the Q key, select that edge, and move it. So all I have to do is move that up. Now before, and I should have done that before I added this edge loop here. So let's go back, Control Z back. Let's go ahead and select this guy right here as well. The Q key, select that edge. And let's select this edge right here, that little part right here. So things get a little trickier. You can see how this will take a little longer for you guys to do and figure out what will work and what won't work. Okay, so I'm going to move that up so I can have the same edge loop that I have here. Okay. And I'm going to hit the Q key and deselect by holding the Control key down. Deselect that one and this one, like that. And maybe move this up a little bit more. There we go, like this. So it kind of gives you that angle there. Okay. Alright, so the same thing with this. That edge right here. Okay. And move that forward. You can see. And then I'm going to deselect this one right here. And deselect this one right here. And just move this forward a little bit. There we go. Okay, so we got a nice look transition there. Okay. And we don't have to do too much down here. I think that looks pretty good. And now we're ready to see what it looks like with Smooth Preview. So we don't have to actually go in there and physically smooth it yet. We can just preview it by hitting the 3 key. Okay. So now we can see that turned out a lot nicer. You can see that we've got a little round edge right there and a little round edge back here. But that's looking pretty good, and we can see that detail. So I've got to add one more edge loop on here to finish this off. Okay, and where do you think that will be? That we need to bring this back a little bit farther to tighten this edge right here. Okay, but where the smoothness comes from is this edge right through here. So I'm going to need to add an edge loop on either side here to control that edge. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and go into edge loop and enter an edge loop right here and an edge loop right here, and you're going to notice, whoops, can I do that? Nope, I didn't want to do that there, but I do need to add one there to tighten that edge up right through here on the inside. So inside one right here on the upper part and an inside one here. And I think that will do it now for all that. We've got a lot of edge loops now, but I think it's going to really hold up now. So I'm going to hit the Q key. I'm going to go back to object mode up here, and I'm going to hit the 3 key, and there's our finished piece. You can see that looks much nicer. Click off of that, and you can see that really holds that edge. And it's all about, that's hard surface modeling right here. Hard Surface 101. Okay, but you always got to start with the edge loops. You can add detail in there if you want to, and then add the edge loops, or you can add the edge loops and add details, however you want to work with this. Okay, so there's no right or wrong way, but now I've got the edge loops. I want to do Control D and move it over, and we'll go ahead and smooth this. So once you add the edge loops and you're happy with hitting the Smooth Preview number 3 and click off of it and you like how it looks and it's what you want, you duplicate it over, hit the 1 key again, and then you smooth it. And that's hard surface modeling. Okay, smooth it. So that would be what you turn in as far as a hard surface model. You always want to keep your low poly with the edge loops, supporting edge loops. You always want to keep those, because you could have a client goes, I really like this, but man, I wish you would have some more detail over on this side. And you can go and add that detail right here by exactly what I did here, by extruding that face and adding edge loops, and then, you know, and that will save you a lot of time, because you really can't model more detail in this smooth object, because that would take way too much time. It'd be really hard to do. But on this low poly piece, you could. You can see that I've got an extra edge loop here that I don't really need, so I can double click on it. Okay. Oops. Let's go back to. Sometimes you'll lose your place there, and you can always get it back by clicking on here. And I'm going to delete that, but not just hitting the delete key. So if I hit the delete key, if I right click over and go to vertex, I still have all my vertices there. It's like I didn't do anything. The edge loop's still there. It's just that you took the edge off, but the vertices are here, and that's not good. So I'm going to do Control Z back, okay, and I'm going to do Control Delete, and that deletes all the vertices at the same time. So Control and Delete deletes all the vertices and the edge loops. Okay, that's really important to remember. Anyway, great. I hope you enjoyed this hard surface modeling tutorial, and hopefully that will help you through. And I want you to watch this first before you start adding edge loops to your crate. I want you to practice this first. Okay, so do these watch this video again if you weren't following along with me, and I want you to get really comfortable adding edge loops before you move forward with adding detail to the crate. Okay, hard surface modeling now, and you'll turn the crate into kind of what this looks like. Just follow the videos and pause the videos if you need to, and rewind videos if you missed something. And good luck this week. Have fun. I love hard surface modeling, and it's something you're going to have to learn, and it takes a lot of time to get good at it. But once you get good at it, you can pretty much make anything. And I wish you the best of luck, and contact me if you have any issues or problems or have questions. And I'll see you guys next week. Have fun this week.